Welcome back. I'm Rashid.
And I'm Joffrey.
All right, so we were just having a conversation about career transitions and some advice that you had gave somebody.
Yeah, definitely. So a good friend of mine, younger friend of mine, early 20s, entrepreneur, great person, great human being, um, had his own kind of a marketing business, and one of his clients offered him an opportunity. So he literally left here from Southern California, picked up his whole world, and moved to Texas. And it was a great opportunity, a lot more money, but he was out there for about 2 weeks, and he sees me as a mentor. I'm not only a friend, but as a mentor for him in business and life, and all things spiritual and everything in between. And he calls me up and he says he's second guessing his decision, and it wasn't quite as advertised what's was offered to him, and so he was really questioning, did I make the right move? Should do I stay here where I'm at, or do I just pick up and go back home? And it was really interesting because, and for those that have talked to me and for those that have listened to some of the conversations, I've been in that stage a couple times in life before. And for anyone listening to this, any major decision you're going to come across in life, it's going to have two components to it. You got to ask yourself, am I making the right decision? And is it the right time? And so a couple things you got to go through. Is it really the right decision? Is this really what's right for me in this context of my life? And then the other part, is this the right time to do it? It might be the right thing to do, but is it really the right time? Have I given it enough time to grow? Have I given this enough? So that was just a really interesting conversation. So I'd love to pitch it to you. Like, what advice would you give this young man?
I mean, it all depends. I mean, there's always going to be hard times. I've been in business for, going on over 11 years, and so there's been many times, especially in the beginning, when I first started my business, where not only my internal voice but also external voices were just like, "Hey, you mean like for instance, like my mother, she used to always tell me, well, why don't you first get into nursing and then maybe we can do this business stuff on the side." And so there was always that confliction. And then at the same time, I dropped out of college 3 times, not once, 3 times. And for me,
They
yes.
let you back after the second time?
Not without the student debt. So, but it was for me, it was a confliction of I am comparing myself to other people and the joy that I thought that they had in the decisions that they were making. And I think a lot of times we think that if you make a decision, you should be happy about the decision. No, you come to a point where you have to make yourself happy about the decision that you make. Because every decision, whether it's for more money or a better business opportunity or just more free time, whatever it may be, it comes with some type of effect to it. There's always going to be a price that you pay. Now, in this type of scenario, for him, I would go back to, okay, what is it about it that's making the decision challenging to accept? Because for me personally, it's not about necessarily the work that creates a challenging situation. It's something that you feel as if is missing, or it's something that's not in the environment. Maybe it's a cultural thing, or maybe it is a time thing. Maybe he does want more work life balance, and maybe he got the money that he was seeking, but he didn't get the other things. And so there's a price to be paid on every single front. I think you just got to come to a decision and a point in which you're happy about the decision that you make.
Yeah, and that brings up an interesting point. Maybe you're missing mama's cooking, or a friendship, or just that local, that local burger place around the corner where you got together once a month with your friend, whatever it might be. And I tell people all the time, money solves money problems. That's it. It won't solve connection issues. It's not going to solve relationship issues. It's not going to solve your interpersonal self doubt questions that you have about yourself and where you're at in life. And so, yeah, you might be making more money, but that's going to just solve the things in life that needed more money. All the other areas of connection that you have, you still got to work on that.
Oh yeah.
And you might even become more deficient in it. You might take a loss in it. And so, one of the things that just in my suggestions for this young person, because I always say you don't give people advice, because people are going to take what they want to take.
Of
You try to
course.
give people suggestions and hopefully some lessons learned. And this can, and by the way, this can go be very deeply spiritual. So whether some of you may call it, the universe, some of it like myself, I believe in God. And I would say there's these questions that go past just out of thinking it in the brain, and you just got to feel it in your gut. And you just got to feel it. Even though the world might be telling you one thing, friends and family might be telling you another, you just got to feel it. You just got to know when it's good, when it's right. It's like if you've ever gone to buy a car or pick out a puppy, and like, that puppy just
Yeah.
locks eyes with, you know what I'm talking
Oh
about.
God, no.
That dog locks eyes and that dog says, you are mine, right?
Those pit bulls out there.
And same thing with a car. You're gonna buy a car, you test drive, and you sit in that seat, you get behind the wheel, you put your hands on the wheel. This is it. And for those of you that are married and been in relationships, loving relationships, you look into a lot of people's eyes, but then there's that one person you look in your eyes, and you look at each other's eyes, and you say, this is the one that was created for me, and I for them. And so that just goes back to just that feeling, and there's no numbers that can be attached to it. There's no real explanation other than it's what you feel. And I always say that's just listening to the spirit. I mean, that even goes back to, like, in Eastern culture, where they say, you have the ideas and the feelings that, the thoughts, the thoughts, you can talk yourself in and out of anything that you want.
Yeah.
You can talk yourself, oh, this is a good job, or this is a good person to date, or this is a bad job, this is a bad person. And then there's the heart. People say follow the heart. The bad part about that is the heart also lies. I can prove you wrong. How many of you said you love someone and someone told you loved them back and they didn't love you, right?
True.
So the heart can lie and the heart can be lied to. But going back to in the Eastern culture, there's I don't mean like Eastern US, I mean like Eastern world. But there's this of that deeper, there's that soul connection. And like for me, I call that's my voice to God. And that's where there's just that inner deeper voice that you have to listen to, that is really what directs you into where you need to go, even more than what you're going to hear from the world.
Yeah, 100%. And like I said, it really comes down to, we're really commonly talking about is peace and decisions. You're an entrepreneur, I'm an entrepreneur, and there's many other entrepreneurs that listen to this. The thing about it is the confliction with trying to find peace in chaos. No one ever questions peace when there's abundance and there's just greatness and there's just all the time of just fairy tales and gumdrops and all this other stuff. But the moment chaos and war break out, that's when people say, did I make the wrong decision? And a lot of times I just come to a peace point where it's just like, okay, I made the right decision. I just need to redefine and create evidence around my decision to reinforce that I made the right decision. Because without the evidence, then that's when you need to go seek counsel. But sometimes you need to come back to a place of like gratitude and say, okay, these are the reasons why I believe that this was the right decision.
That's a good point. And you said a key word in there, seek counsel. So for my good friend, he did something very wise. He reached out to someone, he reached out to me, that he knows, he trusts, and that someone that actually cares about him. But also, more importantly than that, a person who has been there, a person who's been there in those shoes with those same questions, and who not just made a decision that was beneficial. And so a lot what I've learned over the years is, and if I could go back to that younger, that 18, 21, 25-year-old me, is don't try to make those decisions on an island. Don't try to make those decisions exclusive to the thoughts that I had in my own brain.
Yeah.
There's a saying, if your brain had the capacity to solve the problems, it wouldn't have, created the problem in the first place, right? So with that, I got myself into a situation, or I'm in a place where I can't see out of it. Maybe take a step back, reach out to a person who's done this before, a person who's been in that situation, and get some good counsel, get some good guidance. Like we're talking about, making decisions in life. Well, if you look back on it, and some of my decisions turned out good, some of my decisions didn't turn out so good.
Yep.
And so you're never going to know 100%, but you can get counsel, you can get guidance. And if the majority of my decisions have not been favorable, I should really start looking at where I'm coming from a decision-making process. On the flip side of that, I've had mentors tell me, you make good decisions, so trust your gut. You made it this far in life. You didn't hit any of the major pitfalls that, end up tripping up people. And so that gave me confidence to trust my gut in those decisions, that, okay, my gut hasn't steered me wrong.
Yeah.
My soul connection hasn't steered me wrong in my decision-making, decision-making direction. And so I think this also is kind of a two-part for people listening out there. Like, know thyself, know where you're at in your decision making. Like, you just can't give one set of blanket advice and it apply to everyone.
Yeah. I think so. Not know thyself is a very interesting just phrase, just in general, because that's the good, the bad, and the ugly too.
Mhm.
One thing that I'm known for, especially like in my circle, is I will literally tell somebody if you are disrupting my peace, like you have to go. And I have no qualms about that. You've heard me talk about it. Like people ask me, "What do you want in life?" I just want peace. Because it comes down to this: we tell people to find their purpose. We tell people to thrive in their purpose,
Mhm.
but yet we never tell people to protect their purpose as well too.
I've never heard that before.
They got to protect it. What does protecting it mean? Meaning that
Mhm.
shield it from the people that cannot attribute to it. Shield it
Right.
from the people that they are good natured in what they're saying,
Mhm.
as if like, oh, maybe you should take it easy, maybe you should do no. Because the thing about it is, a lot of times what the world sees you as you're moving towards your purpose is not in alignment with what they want for you. And that can be your parents, your friends, because a lot of it comes from a selfish place too. Yeah, they want more time with you, which is understandable. If you're a person of value, then people want more time with you as well
Mhm.
too. But the thing about it is, will you be at peace knowing that you're not contributing to what you believe your legacy or what the higher value that you contribute to humanity could be?
Yeah, that goes along the lines with be careful of taking advice from people that don't have to live with your decisions.
100%. 100. I have been in, whew, I've been in situations where I've been asked to go out or whatever it is, and it's just like, okay, here's the thing. You may think of it as just one night or we're going to hang out or whatever it is, but you don't know that if I take this particular night off, what will happen in the interim. Like you've had employees, I have employees, like there are just things and people that you're responsible for
Yeah,
that you have to deal with. And so that is part of protecting your
yeah,
purpose as well too. And the other thing is I know a lot of people probably listening to probably say to themselves, okay, well, how do I even begin? Like how do I come to a place of peace with my decisions? Well, a lot of times what that comes down to is first it's the purging. A lot of people are afraid to cut off certain things because they feel like in that temporary space of creating that peace for yourself, there has to be a level of purging. There
mhm,
has to be. It's not going to be a oh well, bye bye. No, that's not the end of it. Like there's going to be a lot of pushback too,
yeah.
because you're becoming something different so that you can level up as well too.
And one thing with the being being with the place of your purpose and being at peace with it is there's no crystal ball to tell you what the results are going to be.
Oh no.
And you and I both have learned that over the years, and I really got to speak
Mhm.
this to a lot of people out there. You can make a right decision, do all the right things, and still have a bad outcome
Phew, yep.
because and I think I forget where I read it, but 90 to 95% of the things that will happen to you in life, you have little to no control over. You get into a car, you put your seatbelt on, you pay for your insurance, you took your
Yep.
driving lessons, you've got a perfect driving record, car runs a red light. There's nothing you could have done within your control to stop that, right? You're in your house, you've locked your doors, you've done all the right things, earthquake happens. There's nothing that you could have done. So there's so many things that happen in our life that are out of our control, but you just have to focus on the things that you can control and find peace that you did the best that you could with the best that you had, and find peace in that, and not so much the outcome, but peace in the process that you did what you were able to do with your God-given talents and abilities, and you made it work to the best of your ability.
And I think that also aligns with it's your internal voice because only you know that if you did your best, truly. And a lot of times we're the hardest critics. So sometimes we have to lean on that as being the last voice. Sometimes that external voice of your friends, family, and your partner or whatever it may be, those are the loudest voices because you can actually hear them outside of yourself. So you got to get to a place where you're actually listening to who you are in order to say to yourself, you know what, I've done everything I can, and this is the evidence that points that this was the right decision.
And if most of us are honest with ourselves, let's keep it real. I'm pointing at you people out there, myself too included. Most of the time, if we're being real, we didn't do the absolute best that
Oh
we
no.
could. We make up excuses. We give reasons why. There was an article that recently came out how people, what they found is that people that are working from home right now, that they're spending sometimes as much time trying to show that they're doing work instead of actually doing the work.
Okay,
So
side note real quick. When I was in, I don't know if I was the only one that did this, but when I was in elementary and middle school, I was a terrible student. I would literally like grab last week's homework and fake writing the answers and show it to my mother. So I'd be like, yeah, I did my homework, even though I thought to myself. And as I got older, I was like, I was stupid. Like,
did
could
you
you?
actually get away with it?
I did actually. Yeah.
Then you were
Oh,
smarter than
teachers
that.
love me.
Man,
Teachers love
then you were
me.
actually pretty
Yeah,
smart. I give you
of
credit on
course.
that one.
From I had a silver tongue as a youngin.
No,
So
I call that just being resourceful. That's a whole other subject. So okay, so we dove deep into that one, um, but we want to introduce something a little different this week for you guys. So if you want to do a lead in on that one,
let's see. I mean, okay, so segment's gonna be called Hero or Villain. All right, so
and no, you're not calling me or Rashid a hero or a villain. Don't drag us into your drama.
All right, so who's gonna be the hero or villain this week? What's a good topic on this one? Who's a good target? Because we talked about a lot of people.
Oh, do we go there? Yeah. Let's do the Andrew Tate. I mean,
oh, okay. So you know what? I've had people have asked me about this. Okay.
So for those that don't know, probably most of you, if anyone has any type of social media account whatsoever, you know who Andrew Tate is. And apparently now, if you've been watching the news, you know who he is. So he was an MMA fighter who essentially turned influencer, and who has a platform and who's used his platform to speak his views. And most recently, he's been blocked from Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
Okay, so all right, for me, I'm gonna turn the perspective. We're not gonna go hero or villain with Andrew Tate because that's just gonna be a whole situation. Let's go hero or villain for the social media platforms. Yeah. Do you think that they should have banned him, and why or why not?
Oh, no, I don't think so. And I'll tell you why. Mm-hmm. Because there's this talk about fairness, mm-hmm. right? Well, who defines what's fair? Mm-hmm. And first and foremost, and these are American U.S. companies, so we're supposedly holding to the rights of free speech. Mm-hmm. So I can come out and say negative on whatever political side or whatever president. We have people that are literally committing suicide live. We are able to show terrorists that committing acts of terrorism, mm-hmm. on these platforms. But a person comes out with words and you ban them for the words.
Okay. I'm going to go with very similar. I think for me, the difference is going to be not necessarily what he said, because I don't agree with a lot of stuff he says. That's just who I am as a man that I've come to learn. It's just there's certain things in certain information that for me is not necessarily needs to be talked about in public. That's locker room talk. Let's just be honest. It is. And what people do with that information, that's totally up to them. At the end of the day, he spoke to an audience of predominantly men that resonated with him overall, right? And let's just be honest, how many male influencers have been able to do that throughout the years versus female influencers? So I think it was a catch-22 at the end of the day. If they're going to do that to one, they have to do it to all. You can't just, it's a Pandora box of issues that are about to arrive, because at that point, I mean, that's female influencers that say what they say. That's male influencers that say what they say. This red pill genre it's very new genre. It's always been around, but it's new to the light of the main stage. And so that's my stance on it. So I'm going to go with villain for the social media platforms overall, because that's a Pandora's box. I say they reinstate him. And that's not me saying that I favor the guy in all aspects. I will say that was a nice move.
I agree. Just to tag in on that one, I agree with you. There's some things that he says that I do agree with, and there's a lot of things that I personally that don't resonate with me. And for a couple things, I have a young daughter, and so I look through it the lens of, well, when someone says something, especially on a social media platform, I looked at that as though they're addressing my daughter. And so there are many things that I found him to say that I thought were offensive. That if now you're a young man that comes over and you're trying to date my daughter, we got issues, right? But taking it one step further, I also look at the world from a different perspective of that there is free speech. You are entitled to what you have, what you want to say. But I also have the right to tune that out. And I also have the responsibility to take what you're saying and filter that. If I have little kids at home, I listen to everything that they're going to intake. I filter that. And for myself, if I don't like your view, I don't like your opinion, I like to listen to have a good context. But eventually, I can just turn it off.
100%. If you don't like something, turn it off. And that's the biggest thing with that. And I will say this or whatever. When it comes to the red pill genre overall, this is just me. Is that when it comes to men have to become. Okay, that's just I'm not going to say the other part of that, but men just need to become. And so my biggest issue with Andrew Tate wasn't that what he said and all this stuff. It really came down to the followers in the aspect of what they would do with the information. Because is the information to become a better man, or is the information just to become a prima donna player? So that's for me, that's the caveat in that. It's like, what do you do with the information? Because that's just who I am.
Yeah, and that goes back to the information that I gave my young friend in his business decision. That advice for him was appropriate.
Yeah.
For another individual that maybe hadn't made good life decisions, wouldn't have been as applicable. Well, he wouldn't need to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And that just goes back to it that, we got a world of 7 billion people. There's so many different areas of it. You as an individual need to figure out what pertains to you, what lane, and where are the areas that you most need to grow and to work on. And then I always go back to like a person like Tate, or let's not get politics, but whatever side may be saying, I'm not going to discount everything that you say just because you say a couple things that are wrong, right? And just because I believe in one or two things you say doesn't mean I'm going to blindly accept everything else that comes out of your mouth. And that just goes back to being an intelligent person that tries to use their own logical thoughts and ideas. And at the end of the day, going back to what I said, you just got to go with your gut. And there's that inner spirit.
Okay, so even into that, right? Because we're talking about the actual messenger of information. I'll be honest, we have so many soft listeners. It's not even funny. In this society, in this world, people are trying to guard their ears based off of how the tonality, not the information. If somebody delivers something in a nice tone, they feel as if they'll listen to it. That's not true. No one has ever learned anything in a soft way. If you really think about the hardest lessons and the greatest lessons you learn in life or whatever, it's always been through that of a sharp, to the point, no BS filter.
There's a really good audible that I'm listening to right now. It's Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey.
Oh, I love that. It was great.
Yeah,
great book.
And by the way, I highly, highly recommend it. And what he talks about is those red lights in life that lead to the green lights.
Yeah.
And it's through those challenges. And I won't ruin the book for you, but what he basically talks about is all those difficulties is what made him who he is. And so I think that just goes back to it, not being that soft listener, taking things in. It just doesn't hurt me, but I need to learn what I need to funnel out, and I need to learn what I need to tune out and to stop. And so with that, I got to say, I hope you guys love the content for today. Definitely DM us. I know we got got quite a few DMs off the last one. So it seems as though you guys love the last content. We definitely want to be putting that out more. And as far as the hero and villain, please send us any other topics that you guys like us to dive into. And with that, Joffrey and Rashid signing out.
Peace.
Love you guys. Peace.